Well, welcome back to GlassCast, a podcast of the National Glass Association and its publications Glass Magazine and Window and Door. I'm Katie Devlin, the Chief Content Officer for the NGA, and I'm excited about today's episode, which is the third and final GFAB Rewind podcast. Each of our GFAB Rewind podcasts is spotlighting a session from our inaugural NGA Glass Fabricator Conference, known as GFAB, which took place in Chicago in June. This episode of GlassCast is brought to you by GlassTech, the international trade fair for glass production, processing, and products, taking place October 20th through 23rd in Dusseldorf, Germany. Learn more at glasstechonline.com. So in today's episode, we're going to hear some highlights from a session on exit planning with Scott Mashuda, one of the founding partners at REAG. GFAB's executive track brought together glass fabrication owners, executives, all with the goal to provide content that addressed their biggest concerns. So we had sessions on, the market, trends in glass, the economy, AI and technology integration, and of course, business management and succession. So Scott, his session was titled Update on M&A Market in Glass Fabrication, Walking Backwards Toward Your Exit. And this session took a deep dive into the questions that owners need to be asking themselves well in advance of their eventual business exits. An owner needs to identify what success looks like for them at the end of this process, and then, per Scott, sort of walk backwards to shape the strategy and decisions accordingly. This topic is an important one. It's one that we look at pretty closely at Glass Magazine, Window and Door, and the NGA as a whole, and the why. Some stats to kick us off. Per the Exit Planning Institute, 75% of business owners want to exit their company within 10 years, and 49% plan to leave in 5. However, 83% have no written transition plan. And 70 to 80% of businesses taken to market ultimately fail to sell. So the stakes are high. This is a business owner's largest asset. It's a process that so many in our industry are beginning to navigate. And I will say that presentations on business transitions, valuations, exit planning, they can be dry, but this one truly was a fun session. Scott is a very engaging speaker. The audience had a good time throughout his presentation. He started out with a competitive analysis game that had, folks fighting over a $20 bill. And throughout the talk, he took a deep dive into valuation, types of buyers. But the section that we'll be sharing today in this podcast is the seller side. What does the owner's experience look like? Scott painted a picture of what that process can and should be for owners, what it could look like for business owners, the questions they need to be asking themselves, and the time needed to prepare. So with that, I will hand it over to Scott Mashuda of REAG.
Customized product. So sell side process. I'm only going to hit a couple highlights here, but I want to give you a few things about how this works. My job as an M&A guy is to create competition for the business, just like I created competition for that $20 bill. Competition forces buyers to pay for things that they don't really want to pay for. And what I mean is it forces them to pay for things that they bring to the table. Think about the strategic that we talked to. The advantages that the strategic has is because of what they already do. But they don't want to pay for you for that. They want to pay fair market for what they're buying. Well, that's great in theory, but if there's 4 different groups that want to acquire that company and you can afford to pay more, maybe I need to get the acquisition done. You see where I'm going with that? Right? So this process that we have is designed to find the best buyer, to find the buyer that creates the most value for you as the owner and as the management team. Now wait, notice I said value. I didn't say the goal is to find somebody that pays the highest price. It's the highest value. What do you value? What is important to you? as the owner? What is important to you as the management team? That's what you have to decide. If you don't decide that ahead of time, you're going to feel unfulfilled when the exit actually happens. Money's great, but money's not everything. Did you get the things that you wanted out of the deal? You can't answer that question unless you define what you want. If you define what you want, I can build a process that helps you unlock the things that you want, the things that you value. If you don't tell me what you value, I'm going out there just trying to find somebody to acquire the company. I bring them back to you, and they're not the right fit. If you wait too long, look at this. It's a process, not an event. It takes 9 to 12 months for me to do what I do. I can't snap my fingers and help you exit the company. Oh, and by the way, buyers look back 3 years. They look back 3 years at the normalized EBITDA of the company. Hey, my normalized EBITDA sucks. I'm not ready to sell. Great. You got 3 years that they're going to look at. You got to move the bad years off. And then it's going to take me 12 months to do what I do. You better start thinking about this. Going to do this quickly, okay? But we do everything confidentially, which you saw in the last slide. Nobody knows that somebody's in market or out, for sale. You don't want the employees to get scared. You don't want the customers to get scared. You don't want the vendors to get scared. So I have to maximize value for you, and I can't tell anybody. Kind of ridiculous, right? You do everything blindly. And then as you move through the process and you sign non-disclosures and you share information, you start to unlock who the company is, and you get to learn more about the business. And the process is a funnel so that the wrong people don't get that information. You have to have certain milestones. You got to put in, here's how I'm thinking about value. Okay, well, based on that, you're kind of in the game. We'll continue on with you. How are you going to finance this company? What's your plan? You have a right as the management team and as the owners to understand what's their plan. What are they going to do? You're interviewing these folks just like they're interviewing you. I can tell you every single deal that I've done, and I've done a ton of them, because we started this thing in 2004. Almost every single deal comes down to something other than money. Almost every single one. Last year we had a deal. Guy called me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Probably shouldn't tell you this. Don't call me 2 o'clock in the morning, please. But I will take your call if you're a client of ours, because it's important to you, it's important to me. He said, hey man, I can't do this. And I said, why? I said, I don't feel good about how the employees, my management team is going to be treated. I don't have certainty. And I said, well, if I can get you the certainty, are you good moving forward? Yes. I could not get 5-year employment contracts for those employees, but what I got was their severance would be the delta between 5 years and however long they were employed post-close. So if you're employed for 1 year post-close, you got 4 years severance paid out. If you're employed for 3 years, you got 2 years severance paid out. And that owner says, you know what, I feel good about this. Everybody's going to be taken care of for at least 5 years. It wasn't about money to him. It was about the folks that helped him build that company to where it was today. That song that I picked at the beginning, that wasn't about me. That's about the owner of your company. They didn't start out where they are right now. You might not view them that way because they're the leader, but they didn't start here. They made a ton of mistakes. They built this thing from the ground up. They deserve a profitable and good exit. All right, in that process that I breezed right through, the big tipping point in there is when the LOI is signed. LOI means letter of intent. Think of it like an offer. If you're selling real estate, everybody gets it. Well, put an offer in, okay? If we do our jobs well, we get you multiple LOIs. And then you get to make some decisions. Who do I feel like is the best owner of this business going forward? Like I said, you're interviewing them. What are they going to do for us? How are they going to help us grow? How do they view the management team? How are they going to deal with this business moving forward? Once you sign an LOI and you pick the buyer that's going to be your legacy and take over that business, you lose all leverage, all of it. Now it's a matter of fact-checking everything I told them. Was I the shady-ass dude that put $20 up and tried to sell it to a room for $50? Or have I done this long enough to know that when I put my materials out in market, I coached you and told you, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because when we go to market with this, I have to tell everybody all of that. Well, I don't want to tell them that. I don't care if you want to tell them that or not. If I tell them that up front, it's opportunity. Everybody that ever bought a business bought it because they thought they could do a better job than you could. They thought they could do something with it. But if we didn't tell them, we went through this whole 9-month dating process, and all of a sudden at the end they get in their due diligence after we've agreed to do a deal, we've signed the offer, we've signed the LOI, and there's shit coming at them that you didn't tell them. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, gone, done, deal over. See you later. The trust has been broken. I cannot put that trust back together. There's nothing I can say, there's nothing I can do. Okay? Good, the bad, and ugly all goes up front. They will, at this point, once you sign the LOI, everything has to tick and tie. Everything has to make sense. This is an excruciating process. You might, your management team, you as the owner, you might produce 400 documents here to get through this process. I've seen it. Sometimes less. It's all about data, right? So this was the point that I was getting to the whole time, and I told you all these little details about what I do for a living, things that you may or may not want to know, is if you understand the different ways that buyers buy, how they view value, you can build this company in a way where you're creating something of value for them. If you create something of value for them, they will pay good money for it. But you have to decide where the goal line is. If you don't know where your goal line is, you're just running around the field. What are you doing? Where's the goal line? Why are we doing all this?
Again, that was Scott Mashuda, a founding partner of REAG. Thank you, Scott, for being part of our inaugural GFAB. Thank you to all who attended. We had such a great time in Chicago. It was a fun event, and we're deep into planning for 2027 already. And finally, thank you to this episode's sponsor, GlassTech, the international trade fair for glass production, processing, and products, taking place October 20th through 23rd in Dusseldorf, Germany. Learn more at glasstechonline.com. Thanks. See you next time.